Hello, and welcome to As Built, the podcast from Graphic Machine about architecture firms, buildings, and how both get built. I'm your co-host, Patience Jones. With me is your other co-host,
Brian Jones.
That's right. In today's episode, we are doing a tech stack, and the topic is e-newsletters.
Now, e-newsletters usually brings to mind horrible things that usually is the last minute putting something together to push it out the door. And I think this is exactly the reason why we're having this tech stack. Because
this is an intervention.
Yeah.
Is what this is.
So in my experience, the e-newsletters come in a couple of varieties inside of a firm. They are either one where it's a picture of a project, maybe some description, and it's pushed out the door as frequently as they get a new project built. That is like option A. Option B is the once in a blue moon there's a bundle, for lack of a term, of everything the firm has done in that last period of time. And it is a tome, and it is usually extremely long and hard to manage.
Oh, I have a third one.
Okay. What's the third one?
So the third one is a cadence that is adhered to very strictly regardless of whether there's anything to say. And so sometimes what's being said is, our firm partner went to the park this weekend. Here's a picture of him with his kids.
Yep.
Newsletter, and it goes out because then we've sent the weekly newsletter.
Yep. All of these have something in common. And it seems like that's what they should have in common once I say it, but it is all about you. In each of those instances, it is
you being
the firm.
Yes.
And not you, patient.
All of these things are about me. That's what is in common. Yeah.
But
hope everyone's learned their lesson.
The thing about making your e-newsletter solely from the perspective of what benefits your firm is that there is no consideration for the person opening email and what they might get out of it. That's not even on the table or part of the conversation because it doesn't matter from your perspective. And that therein lies.
It's like e-newsletters have almost become like a digital version of a billboard. And I know there are digital billboards. That's not what I'm talking about. But with a billboard, you just put up the stuff and then you hope people drive past it and they see it.
Yep.
With this type of pushing out all the time, you're just pushing out what you want to say and you're hoping that people, one, receive it in their inbox, and two, that they look at it.
And you shouldn't assume either of those things.
Mm-mm.
In fact, if you look at the stats of people who practice this, you will probably find several things that are happening. One, you probably have a pretty abysmal open rate, which is the number of opens that a particular email has. You probably have a large number of unsubscribes to your e-newsletter each time that you send it out. And you probably are not getting any responses back from people, which is what you wanted in the first place.
Or clicks through to things that you've linked to in your newsletter.
So so we've identified what not to do. So where is a good place to start in figuring out what would work for a firm, but that also considers prospects' interest on the other side of that email?
So the words of the great Simon Sinek start with the why. Why are you sending out an e-newsletter? And I really mean this. There is not a right answer to this. But the answer does inform what you should do next. So if the answer is we're sending one out because our competitors send one out and we were told we were supposed to send one out and everybody sends one out, stop sending it. It's a terrible reason. You're wasting your time. Don't do it again until you have a better reason for doing it and you have a plan in place. If you're saying this is how we let our prospects know about projects that we've completed or work that we've landed or new service areas, okay, great. That's perfectly good why. So if that's the why, then it means in order for this to be successful, the people that you want to reach have to get the thing you're sending and they have to look at it. So then what has to happen for them to get it and look at it?
2 steps.
2 steps, 2 very different factors that you're looking at. In order for them to receive it, you need to be using I don't want to say approved because it's not like there's an approval council, but you need to be using an email distribution system like a MailChimp or a Constant Contact or
HubSpot or
something that has a platform that is designed to send these out. What you absolutely should not do is just take all the email addresses that you have and put them in the to line and send it out through your personal email.
No, stop doing that. Stop it right now.
You actually are risking your own email address being blacklisted. Meaning, if you do that, you do it enough times, other people's mail servers will start rejecting any email that they get from you automatically because they assume it's spam. And so if everybody on that list is one of your clients, guess who you can't communicate with over email anymore, which is just embarrassing for one. So just don't do that. Are you using an email distribution service? Are the people that you're sending to people who have consented to receive your email? That's a whole other topic, but just note that for now. What you're not allowed to do is scrape your entire inbox of anybody that you've ever talked to about anything and all of your LinkedIn connections and anybody that you may have ever seen their email address somewhere and send them your newsletter and not give them an option to unsubscribe, which is another reason you want to use an approved service because they have fancy little mechanisms where people can do unsubscribes and you don't have to do anything and you're compliant. You also want to make sure your email will be received by the inbox of the person that you're sending it to. So you don't attach PDFs. You don't have a lot of photos in it. You don't make the subject line something that's likely to trigger a spam filter. So that's the technical component. Then, once they've received it, it's in their inbox. What do you do? What have you done to get them to read it?
And I would say that's probably the technical stuff is extremely critical. But I would start first with the why, as Patience noted, that it's like what would get you to open an email and think about that and hold that up against your idea and say, does it meet that? And I think that is a really important thing. And maybe it's that if you work in a particular sector of and you promote other people that are doing the organizations that are doing that work and you talk about what they're up to, but also showcase some of the work that you help that supports that, that could be a real win for you. But it's also something that is doing something for that group that you're servicing. And I think that's pretty critical thing that has to happen in order for it to be effective.
If you can try to balance the content of the email that you're sending out, if you're promoting a project, maybe you have two pieces of content in that email. And one is the project promotion, and one is a link to some sort of article on your site that the people receiving this newsletter might think is interesting. And if you're talking about work that you've done, don't write paragraphs and paragraphs in this email. Write a couple of lines and link back to your website where they can click through and they can read more. Because most people are not going to read a really lengthy email, not on their desktop and not on their phone.
And P.S., most of the time people are consuming email on their phones. So
yes.
That is important.
Yes. And think about if you receive an email that has a signature picture, couple of lines of text, and a link, you might be more apt to read that entire thing and click on the link than if you get something that goes on for pages and has different sections and 18 headers. It's too much of an ask of people. And that's the important thing to remember. When you send something, you are asking them to read it. So make it easy on them.
So big takeaways.
Big takeaways. Figure out why you're doing this. Figure out what is going to be useful for achieving that goal. So, example, you want prospects to read about the work you're doing. How can you present that work in an email that makes your prospects likely to want to engage with that? And then make sure you've got all your technical I's dotted and your T's crossed, because there's nothing worse than putting all this effort in and then realizing no one's going to see this because there was some technical glitch.
I think the only thing I would add to that is like maybe stop looking at this as an equivalent to a press release and start looking at it as a way to communicate with your audience, which it is. And let that be a little bit of a guide towards how you shape what it is that you're sending and why you're sending.
That's a really good point, and causes me to think of another point I want to make, which is the cadence. And I mercilessly mocked the places that are sending it out just for the sake of cadence. However, cadence is important. If you are only sending out an email once a year, once every 4 months, that can create problems with deliverability. It can create problems with unsubscribes. It's just better if you can say, okay, what's a realistic, sustainable cadence that we can do? Once a week is probably too much for most firms. It's too much in terms of putting together content, and it's too much for the people who are receiving it. Once a month, once every 2 weeks, that's a good cadence. This will also help keep your sender list healthy, because think about the number of people who change jobs, who leave firms in a 2 months' time. This makes it so that when you get back messages of, okay, this email address isn't good anymore, we have to track down where this person is now, you're not getting like 800 of those at a time. You're getting a manageable number, and you can make sure that your list is always healthy.
And make sure this goes hand in hand with your social output as well for social media, and how that might inform what gets shared in that platform, on those platforms, rather than in an email.
And please don't just put a link to your newsletter as a social post.
No.
Just don't. I don't even want to talk about it. Just
stop doing that.
That is our e-newsletter for today. Thank you for listening, and we will talk to you next time.